Hi, so I just finished reading Malala, and I had been wanting to read this one for a while because I'm very inspired by just her story and everything she stands for, and it's great. Of course, she's great. Of course, her book is also great. I, of course, really enjoyed reading it, and I mean enjoyed. It was interesting, inspiring, and I learned a lot from it. I didn't actually know that there was gonna be so much history in it, but it's something you need to know to understand, like, everything. And I'm very thankful of all the history because I did learn a lot from reading it, and I really recommend it to anyone. I don't have a review or anything like that for I Am Malala. I think it's sometimes kind of hard to review or rate something that is non-fiction, but I do want to talk about a few points in the book because I just think it's worth talking about. I would put like little tabs in there so I wouldn't forget where things were. The book itself is of course very beautiful, and I like this picture of them, Malala and her father. So one of the things I just wanted to share is a quote from her when she's talking about the Taliban and the army in Pakistan. And she says, "If there's a snake and a lion coming to attack us, what would we say is good, the snake or lion?" And I just thought it was very clever, and it kind of reminds me of the quote by Carl Sagan, which goes, "The nuclear arms race is like two sworn enemies standing waist deep in gasoline. One with 3 matches, the other with 5. It's just one of those. It makes you think, it's interesting. Whatever, I don't know. Also, I really like this one. A quote from Malala's father, Sayuddin Yousafzai. He says, "At night our fear is strong, but in the morning, in the light, we find our courage again." I thought that was beautiful, and it's so true. It is, it's so true. Everything changes when the sun comes up. Malala also talks about a poem that her father used to keep in his pocket. It's a poem by Martin Niemöller, and it's a very famous poem, so I'm not gonna recite the whole thing, but the first 4 lines are, "First they came for the communists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a socialist." And then it goes on for the trade unionists, the Jews, the Catholics, and then it ends with, "Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." And it's so powerful, and I love this poem, and I had completely forgotten about it, so I love the fact that Malala reminded me of this great poem. Or maybe I should thank Sayuddin for reminding me, because he was the one keeping it in his pocket. But it's so important. It really is. We need to stand up for each other, because if we don't stand up for each other, then who's gonna stand up for us when we need the help? Maybe now we think, okay, we don't need any help, I'm fine, something's going on, but that's their problem. But it's our problem. We're all... This is a very emotional book. Oh, she made a great point about the manual workers in Pakistan, or in Swat, rather. And I think this is something that happens everywhere. Basically what she says is that the people of Swat, the people of Pakistan, they enjoy, they celebrate, and they love art, but they don't respect the artist. I'm being very loose with my explanation because it's an entire paragraph and I'm not going to read the whole thing. But just for example, the cobblers. She says that people love shoes and the artistry of shoes, but the cobbler is not a very respected person. Like, people don't celebrate the cobblers. So many of the manual workers joined the Taliban to finally achieve status of power. And that's a quote from the book. And that's very interesting. And that's something, again, very important, because I think the wanting the end product but not respecting the maker of the product, it's so important that that just stops. So that was very interesting. Because that was something I would not have known if I had not like read this book. That normal everyday workers were joining like the Taliban, and that this might be a reason. Another thing, she talks about the ringleader Fasula. He had a radio broadcast. He was very charming. He enchanted a lot of the women of Swat, and they started like giving him money, and not just the women, just everyone. After having given the Taliban their gold, money and their bangles and rings, they start regretting it, because now time has passed and they know what the Taliban actually is. And a husband says to his wife, "Don't cry. That is the sound of your earrings and nose studs. Now listen to the sound of your lockets and bangles." She's crying because he can hear explosions, and he's comforting her by telling her, like, it's okay. That's because of you. Those are the bangles you gave them in the beginning. Now you can hear them. It's so movie-esque, and it's such a punch in the gut. But it's also like, it's beautiful. It's also beautiful. It's because it's so on point and it needs to be said. So I like that quote. Also, I may be like smiling, but that's because I'm in awe of the book. I'm not smiling because of the Taliban or anything like that. This of course horrifies me. Another great quote from Malala herself. "Education is education. We should learn everything and then choose which path to follow." I was really horrified while reading about how women are treated in some places there, and just how the system is and how the system works against women. And like, if their husband goes missing and they can't know if he's dead or not, then they can't remarry, and their only source of income is to have a husband, because they are not educated, they can't do anything, and maybe in some places they aren't even allowed to do anything. I mean, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna survive? How are you gonna eat? Damn, hard knock life. And of course I should end this video with mentioning the Malala Fund, which is basically Malala's mission to educate kids. So you can go on to malalafund.org or join the conversation at facebook.com/malalafund, and on Twitter it's twitter.com/malalafund. So that's definitely something to check out. And please do read the book if you haven't. What she's doing is great, and I hope she continues. I hope she becomes the big politician that she wants to be, and that she can return to her land and help build it up and get everyone good education. And I believe that she really can, and I hope she will. Little taps.